So, give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach. Y'all gonna stop for a moment. So, John 5:39, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you that you have not, quiet. But I know you, that you have not the love of Alahym in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. For another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that comes from Alahym only? Do not think that I will accuse you to Abba. There is one that accused you, even Moses who you trust. But had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? So, the word that we will be dealing with this evening is mishpachah, or the word for family. We'll be dealing with all the familiar, I should say, things with family. That's what we're going to do. So, but before we go any further, dig into that. Let's go to Mark chapter 3. Let's do that. Leave your daddy computer alone. Get somewhere and sit down. Mark chapter 3 and verse 31. And there came then his brethren and his mother, and standing without, sent unto him, calling him. And the multitude sat about him, and they said unto him, Behold, thy mother and thy brethren without seek for thee. And he answered them, saying, Who is my mother or my brethren? And he looked round about on them which sat about him, and said, Behold, my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of Alahym, the same is my brother and my sister and mother. So before we proceed any further from here, let's go to John chapter 17 and verse 17, and then get you Hebrews chapter 2, and then we shall go from there. I'll let you know.
Can I get a book?
What?
Can I get a book?
I don't care. Go get a book. John 17 and 17. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. As thou hast sent me into the world, even so have I also sent them into the world. And for their sakes I sanctify myself. Very well. That they also might be sanctified through the truth. So, he said sanctified himself by the Amunah, that they may also sanctify themselves by the Amunah. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 11. Oh, man. But we don't want verse 11. We want verse 6. Hebrews 2 and 6. And then we will delve into the characters for mishpachah, is what we will do. Say, but in one certain place testified, saying, What is man?
What is man?
That thou art mindful of him. Or the Son of Man, that thou visit him.
Or the Son of Man, that visit him.
Thou made him a little lower than the angels.
And then him of the angels.
Then crowned him with glory and honor.
They crowned him with glory and honor.
And then set him over the works of thy hands.
And set him in the work of thy hands.
Thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet.
Thou put his hands on the dishes on his feet.
For that he put all in subjection under him.
And all he put his own dishes under him.
He left nothing that is not put under him.
He left nothing put under him.
Now we see not yet all things put under him. But we see Yahusha, who was made
And we see Aliyah as so made.
a little lower than the Malachim.
A little
for the suffering of death,
for suffering and death,
crowned with glory and honor,
and glory and honor,
that he may by the grace of Alahym
that is grace honor him,
to taste death for every man.
to taste death for every man,
For it became him,
who forgave him,
for whom are all things,
for their own things,
and by whom are all things,
and by whom they,
and bringing many sons unto esteem,
the celebration of things,
to make the captain of their salvation
being the captain of salvation,
perfect through sufferings.
perfect for death.
For both he that sanctifieth,
For his both he is the sacrifice,
and they who are sanctified,
and for the sacrifice,
all are one.
all are one.
For which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren.
For she called one of brethren.
So that took us back to the part that we seen about he sanctified the apostles through the truth, the same way that he sanctified himself by the truth. And through this sanctification of the faith that is in his name, because you were doing the will of Alahym, that you would be called his mother, his brother, or his sister, or him declaring who his mishpachah is, those who do the will of Alahym. We must establish what is the will of Alahym. John chapter 6 and verse 26. Oh, my goodness. So we see, truly, truly, Yahushua answered them and said, truly, truly, I say unto you, you seek me not because you saw the miracles, but because you did eat of the loaves and were filled. Labor not for the meat which perish, but for the meat which endure unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him of Alahym Abba sealed. Then they said unto him, what shall we do that we might work the works of Alahym? Yahushua answered and said unto them, this is the work of Alahym, that you believe on him whom he hath sent. This is the will of Alahym, is for you to believe on him whom he hath sent. This would allow you to be sanctified, to be called his brethren or his sisterin, and to be a part of his family. The word mishpachah contains the characters of the meme, the shan, the pei, the kot, and the hey. So we come with the meme and we come with blood. We come with shan and we come with paired. Go get your mama's phone real quick. Hey, ask her to. Hey, little muffin.
Mommy.
I forgot because we use something different for pay. I believe we use protect. We use entrance for pay. I think that's what we use. We got cot, the separation, and no. I did it differently because she has something different. Where hey, we're using it to look into greatness. And that's what it is. When we look into the greatness of the word, it allows us to be paired with the blood of Son of the nature. Because we did something a little different. Because a couple of us sat back and went through that. But that first thing with that hey, instead of using reveal, he wanted to look into greatness. No.
The bars are so low.
No.
The bar is so low going.
Okay. Hey, look, I don't need to like this. Hey, little muffin.
I don't know where she is.
You don't know where she is? It's okay, because I'll find it. Dang, I get on this thing. That junk open up all the emails every time. There we go.
Daddy, I want salad. I got your phone.
There we go. Give me 1 second, man. That junk escaped my brain because we all had various different things. There we go. So with pay, we have entrance. And that's what we're using. We're using entrance. We're not using word. We're not using mouth. And we're not using speak. You're just sitting back and we're using entrance. With Sean, we're using a pair. With meme, like I said, we're using blood. with cot. We sit back and we can use protect. And like I say, and to look into greatness. So when you look into greatness, it allows you to be paired to the entrance of where the blood, or it allows you entrance. Well, actually, the blood will allow you entrance, which will pair you to the protection. And then also you're looking at that you're looking into greatness. So now we need to establish what it is to look into greatness. So let's look and let's deal with that. Luke chapter 1. Because the other part is going to come in dealing with the blood is going to allow you an entrance. The blood will also protect you. So let's look at Luke chapter 1. I'm gonna go eat stank. Luke 1 and 31. Or Luke 1 and 28. And Alahym came in unto her and said, Hail, thou art highly favored. Yahuwah is with thee. Baruch art thou among women. And when she saw him, she was troubled at his saying, and cast in her mind what manner of salutation this should be. And the Alahym said unto her, Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with Alahym. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Yahusha. And he shall be great. And he shall be called the Son of the Highest. And Yahuwah Alahym shall give unto him the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever. And of his kingdom there shall be no end. So with that being said, it said that he would be called great. So we would have to look at and establish what it is that would cause him to be called great, because you need to look into greatness. Let's go to the 45th chapter of Isaiah. Because when you look into this, and like I say, it's a couple different things that I could go with it. There's 3 different ways that we could take it. When you look into the greatness, it's going to pair you to the blood, which will separate you to enter when you look into the greatness. Then we have to sit back and look at it. If we're looking into the greatness and it pairs us with the blood that will separate us to enter, we have to look at what we're entering into. Then also on another token, you can sit back and look at how the blood allows entrance. Then we have to sit back and look at what does the blood allow entrance to. I'm pretty much saying the same thing. It's in a different way. But then also when you look at that, you also can sit back and look at how it protects. That protection which comes in with the with that cot to protect or to surround, because that blood does protect and it surrounds. And we have to look at what it's protecting and surrounding us from. Nevertheless, Isaiah 45 and 21. Leave mom his phone alone. Tell ye and bring them near, yea, and let them take counsel together. Who have declared this from the ancient time, and who have told it from that time? Have not I Yahuwah, and there's no Alahym beside me? A just Alahym and a Savior, and there is none beside me. Quiet. Don't come in here with all that noise, sir. Thank you. Look unto me. Look unto me and be ye saved, all the ends of the earth. For I am Alahym, and there is none else. I have sworn by myself, the word is gone out of my mouth, and righteousness, and shall not return, that unto me every knee shall bow, and every tongue shall swear. Surely shall one say, in Yahuwah have I righteousness and strength. Even to him shall men come, and all that are incensed against him shall be ashamed. In Yahuwah shall all the seed of Yasharal be justified and shall esteem. Now he just sat back and he told you, surely someone is going to come. And they are going to come, that they are going to come, and one is going to say that they have righteousness and strength, and men will even come, and everyone that is incensed against him will be ashamed. We need to take a look at that. Keep that in mind. Keep yourself. Let's take a look at Zechariah chapter 12. Abigail, what are you doing? And I'm really doing this a little different than I should have. But nevertheless. Zechariah 12 and 10. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the ruach of Khan and of supplications, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourn for his only son, and shall be bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. Both the prophet Zechariah and the prophet Isaiah have made mention that you will look upon someone for your salvation. Look upon him. We're talking about looking into greatness. So we have to sit back and we have to examine what is going to make Yahusha great. What is going to cause them to what they will be looking into. Let's take ourselves over here to what it is. Luke 18. It's not Luke. Yeah, Luke 18. Luke 18, not Luke 8. I don't want Luke 8. I'm in John 18. That's why I'm not seeing what I'm looking for. Well, Luke 9, actually, we just use that. Get straight to the point. I can't hold y'all all night. Luke 9 and 20. Abigail. And he said unto them, But whom say ye that I am? Peter answering said, The Hamashiach of Alahym. And he straitly charged them and commanded them to tell no man that thing. The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the... Because you heard... That's not effective. The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the elders and chief priests and scribes and be slain and be raised the third day. So in order for him to be made great, he was going to have to sacrifice himself. This is what was going to make him great. This is what is going to allow us to be made great. Now you want to look into the greatness. So now we need to turn around and we need to look into the greatness. So let's go to John chapter 12, verse 30. John 12 and 30 says, Yahushua answered and said, This voice came not because of me, but for your sakes. No, don't pick her up, please. Now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. And I, if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. Now notice that we've seen in Isaiah 45, and let's revisit it real quickly, that he said that men would come to him. And that they would say that they have righteousness and strength. Even to him shall men come. And all those who were incensed against him will end up being ashamed. Now, Hamashiach, hold on, let me read the next verse, verse 33. Then he said, signifying what death he should die. The people answered him, we have heard out the Torah that Hamashiach abide forever. How say thou, the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? They say they know that the anointed one is to be lifted up. He's telling them what manner of death that he should die for them to be able to look into this greatness. Now we're going to take a reverse. We're going to come back to the righteousness and strength. But I have to do this in a different fashion. We talked about on Shabbat, Job 32 and 19. My belly is as wine which have no vent, and is, let's just read it because I don't want to quote the second part. Job 32 and 19. It says, behold, my belly is as wine which have no vent. It is ready to burst like new bottles. So we had already discussed that belly is as wine. We know that Hamashiach drunk the new wine in Matthew 26, which was the new covenant, which was shed for many for the remission of sins. And we know that he put it in the old bottle, which was his body, which of course caused that old bottle, that new wine putting in that old bottle to burst. So therefore that he perished, because the testament is of none effect while the testator lived. It is necessary that the testator die in order to make the testament of any effect. So with that being said, once it had a vent or an opening to release, we know they hit him in his side and the wine came out and it burst out like a new bottle. We know a new, dealing with refreshed or the renewed, causes him to be changed. See, and with that, looking into the greatness and them being ashamed and all of these things, we're going to work ourselves to something. Because don't take that from her, because she had it and she wasn't bothering you. And you're going to take that from her and make her cry. And for what? Leave her alone. You didn't have it. Let her look. Let her have it. So with that being said, Hamashiach is raised up for you to look into this greatness. This greatness is going to cause you to be separated. Remember, we talked about the sanctifying in order for you to be called his brother or to be a part of his family. This sanctifying is going to allow you to enter in somewhere. And it's going to cause you to be able to be paired to enter in because of this blood. This blood is going to allow you to enter somewhere where you could not have been able to enter before. So the thing that we're going to do now is we're going to see how Yahushua calls them to look into greatness the second time. Everybody saw him up there on the tree when he was lifted up. But let's see how he calls them to look into greatness the second time. 24th chapter of Luke and the 25th verse. Because with it, they're going to see a great work. They get to see the great work of Alahym. Luke chapter 24, verse 25. Make that verse 22. Make that verse 19. And he said unto them, what things? And they said unto him, concerning Yahushua of Nazareth, which was a prophet mighty in deed and word before Alahym and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers condemned him to death and have crucified him. But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Yasharal, and besides all this, today is the third day since these things were done. Yea, and certain women also of our company made us astonished, which were early at the sepulchre. And when they had found not his body, they came, saying that they had seen a vision of Malachim, which said that he was alive. And certain of them which were with us went to the sepulchre and found it, even as so as the women had said, but they saw him not. Then he said unto them, O fools and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not Hamashiach to have suffered these things, and to enter into his esteem? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. So when he did this, they have bared witness to his resurrection, and he is causing them to look into this greatness. This greatness will allow them to be able to be separated. They'll be able to be separated because they'll be paired with the blood to enter. And where are they pairing with? That pairing with the blood is going to cause them to enter where? Well, that's what we're going to try to figure out. Let's look at the last thing here in verse 36 in Luke 24. And as they thus spake, Yahushua himself stood in the midst of them, and saith unto them, Shalom be unto you. But they were terrified and affrighted, and supposed that they had seen a ruach. And he said unto them, Why are you troubled, and why do thoughts arise in your hearts? Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me and see. For ruach have not flesh and bones, as you see me have. Let's drop down to verse 44. And he said unto them, These are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled, which were written in the law of Moses, and in the prophets, and in the Psalms concerning me. And then he opened their understanding, that they might understand the scriptures. And he said unto them, Thus it is written, thus it behooved the Mashiach to suffer, and to rise from the dead the third day, and that repentance and remission of sins should be preached in his name among all nations, beginning at Jerusalem. Now, the one thing we didn't read in that Luke 24 is when the apostle said that in verse 31, that when he broke that bread and brake it and gave it to them, that their eyes were open and they knew him. And they stated how their hearts burned while he opened to them the scriptures, because they were looking into the greatness of the son of Alahym, because he would be called great in the son of the highest. And he's called great because of his obedience of faith and him overcoming death to give us life, for him to be called the son of the highest. Lizzie, please stop doing that. So let's look at something that occurred in the 27th chapter of Matthew, as they were looking into his greatness. And those that were incensed at him or angry at him ended up being ashamed. Matthew 27. Yahushua, when he cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ruach. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. And the graves were opened, and the many bodies of the Chased, which slept, arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the Kadesh city, and appeared unto many. Now when the centurion and they that were with him, watching Yahushua, saw the earthquake and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, Truly, this was the son of Alahym. Now they're ashamed, because now they know what they've done. They've realized what they've done. Remember that he said righteousness and strength would be in one and some. But notice the case of when this occurred of his dying, the veil of the temple rent. So we need to go in the law, and we need to look at the things pertaining to the temple. But before we do that, no, let me do it in this direction. Numbers chapter 4. Matter of fact, Exodus chapter 26. Because the law is, even though it's not been all the way close to it as we would like, we're still dealing with the law. Exodus chapter 26. And verse 30. Exodus chapter 26 and verse 30. Thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof, which was showed thee in the mount. Thou shalt make a veil of purple, of blue, purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen of cunning work, with cherubims shall it be made. And thou shalt hang it upon the 4 pillars of shittim wood, overlaid with gold. The hooks shall be of gold upon the 4 sockets of silver. And thou shalt hang up the veil under the taches, that thou may bring hither within the veil the ark of the testimony. And the veil shall divide unto you between the Kadesh place and the most Kadosh. And thou shalt put the mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most Kadesh place, and thou shalt set the table without the veil, and the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle towards the south, and thou shalt put the table on the north side. And thou shalt make a hanging for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework, and thou shalt make for the hanging 5 pillars of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold, and their hook shall be of gold, and thou cast 5 sockets of brass for them. Now, this veil does not allow you to come into the most Kadosh place. As you see what is stated, it says it separates you between the separated place and the most separated place. So let's examine further. Let's understand this here. And we're dealing with the aspect of the blood Being paired with the blood will allow you to enter because you were separated because you looked into the greatness. So looking into the greatness is what's going to pair you with the blood to separate you to enter in to this most Kadesh place because you need to enter in to this most Kadesh place. So let me check what word they have for veil here because it could be different. Okay, same word. Nevertheless, one more thing I need to see. Oh, yes. Yes. There we go. The word that we have for veil in this particular verse is porketh. That is the word, porketh. Porketh is the word. And we get a good old pay, rosh, kaf, and tile. So knowing that we have that, hold on, y'all. Again, when we look at pay, we're going to come with entrance. Definitely going to probably use entrance yet again. We have the highest with Rosh or the first. I say for pay, we definitely going to use entrance. When you sit back and you look at Rosh, we'll use the first or the chief, the highest, or things of that nature, possibly most important. And you turn around and we have Kaf over here. I'm going to more than likely say that we're going to focus on that being that which is going to subdue or abate. No, or to say more for that when they're your work, because that's what I was thinking. And work is better. And then tile the covenant. So we see that the highest will allow entrance by your work for you to enter into this covenant with this very, when dealing with this veil. This veil is separating you from actually getting into the separated place. So let's take a look at Exodus chapter 30 because you need to understand the veil as much as you possibly can. We're at 30 minutes. A little faster. And I got a lot to go. It's 8:22. Make sure that's what I want to use. No, we don't want to use that. And I'm not ready to use that. Exodus chapter 40. Let me see if we want to use that. Exodus chapter 40. And let's take ourselves at about verse 16. Exodus 40 and 16. Thus did Moses according to all that Yahuwah commanded him, so did he. And it came to pass in the first month in the second year, on the first day of the month, that the tabernacle was reared up. Moses reared up the tabernacle and fastened its sockets and set up the boards thereof and put in the bars thereof and reared up his pillars. He spread abroad the tent over the tabernacle and put the covering of the tent above upon it, as Yahuwah commanded Moses. And he took and put the testimony into the ark and set the stays on the ark and put the mercy seat above upon the ark. And he brought the ark into the tabernacle and set up the veil of the covering and covered the ark of the testimony, as Yahuwah had commanded Moses. And he put the table in the tent of the congregation upon the side of the tabernacle northward without the veil. And he set the bread in order upon it before Yahuwah, as Yahuwah had commanded Moses. So again, the veil is a covering the ark of the covenant. We know that there's nothing in the ark of the covenant save 2 tables of stone. The mercy seat is symbolic of the throne of Yahuwah. There's a veil that is separating you from the most Kadesh place to where you can't come in unto this. Let's look at something in Leviticus chapter 4 in the law as well, and then we'll get Leviticus 16. So remember, we're dealing with pay, and we're dealing with entrance. We're dealing with Rosh, which is the highest. We're dealing with Kaf, which is the work of the covenant. So the work of the highest will allow you to enter into the covenant. But you need this be to be paired with the blood to be able even to enter in to this veil in the first place, which is the place that we're looking at with the mishpachah, with the entrance, because we're dealing with being a part of this man's family. Because you looked into the greatness and being paired by that blood, it separated you to come into this entryway, into this entrance, a place where you could not come before. Nevertheless, Leviticus chapter 4 and verse 1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, and this is about sin offerings here. Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Yasharal, saying, if a soul shall sin through ignorance against any of the commandments of Yahuwah concerning things which ought not to be done, and shall do against any of them, if the priest that is anointed do sin according to the sin of the people, then let him bring for his sin which he have sinned a young bullock without blemish unto Yahuwah for a sin offering. And he shall bring the bullock unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahuwah, and shall lay his hand upon the bullock's head, and kill the bullock before Yahuwah. And the priest that is anointed shall take of the bullock's blood and bring it to the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall dip his finger in the blood and shall sprinkle of the blood 7 times before Yahuwah, before the veil of the sanctuary. Now let's look at that. It says before the veil. Not in the veil, but before it. Now we're going to see why is that the case in just a moment. Just pulling the word for before there, that's all. And when you look at before, it's the face of the veil, because the word is panim, which we dealt with before. So let's look at verse 7. And the priest shall put some of the blood upon the horns of the altar of the sweet incense before Yahuwah, which is in the tabernacle of the congregation, and shall pour all the blood of the bullock at the bottom of the altar of the burnt offering, which is at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. We can keep moving, because that's not the part that I wanted. Got to drop down just a tad bit. Then the verse I'm looking for is outside of my head at this particular point. I'll find it, y'all willing, and bring it back up. But the other verse is another verse in Leviticus that states that he can't come into this place on a regular basis lest he die. Let me make sure that's not Numbers chapter 4. And we just went over this yesterday too. And that's my fault. Come back to Numbers chapter 4. Come to number 4. Because what we're trying to recall up top of my head is that he can't come in and out of the set apart place. He can't go in. He can't go in and out of the veil as he pleases. He doesn't have that leeway. Let me pull it. And I got to call where I put that at. But come over here to Numbers chapter 4. 4 and about verse 6. Actually, we need about verse 5 is cool. It said, when the camp set forward, Aaron shall come and his sons, and they shall take down the covering veil and cover the ark of the testimony with it, and shall put thereon the covering of badger skin, and shall spread it over it a cloth wholly of blue, and shall put it in the staves thereof. And upon the table of shewbread they shall spread a cloth of blue, and put thereupon the dishes, and upon the spoons, bowls, the cups withal. Continual bread shall be thereon. So again, it's telling us about when they take this thing and they move it, that it has to be covered. That veil, the only person who could come inside the veil is the high priest. Let's look at Leviticus chapter 16. No, not really. The only person who could come inside the veil is the high priest. And he couldn't come in there any time as he pleased. He could only actually come within the veil one time a year. Leviticus chapter 16. And none of the people could come inside the veil. If you came inside the veil, then you would be killed. We've already read in Exodus where it made that statement. That this veil, this curtain, made of blue, purple, and scarlet, separated the Kadesh place from the most Kadesh place. So we couldn't enter into this place. And the only person who could enter into that place was the high priest, and he brought blood. Yes, Pops. Leviticus 16:1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, where's Potty? What? Am I hungry? No, not right now. Yahuwah spake unto Moses after the death of 2 sons of Aaron, when they offered before Yahuwah and died. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, speak unto Aaron thy brother that he come not at all. There it was. My apologies. That's what it was. That's where it was at. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, speak unto Aaron thy brother that he come not at all times into the Kadesh place within the veil before the mercy seat, which is upon the ark, that he die not. For I will appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat. So he just told him right now, don't come in here all the time. Because if you come in here all the time, you are going to die. You can reference, Exodus chapter 30 and verse 10, where it tells you about that he can only come within the veil one time a year. That's the 10th day of the 7th month, the day when everybody afflict their soul. That's the one time a year he can come within the veil. He just sat back and told him, don't you come that he come not at all times, because he's going to die. He said, thus shall Aaron come into the Kadesh place with a young bullock for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. And he shall put on the Kadesh linen coat, and he shall have on the linen breeches upon his flesh, and he shall be girded with the linen girdle, and with the fine linen mitre shall he be attired. These are the Kadesh garments. Therefore shall he wash his flesh in water, and so put them on. And he shall take of the congregation of the children of Yasharal 2 kids of the goats for a sin offering, and 1 ram for a burnt offering. Let's look at Exodus 30 and 10 since I mentioned it, so y'all can understand this point as forth as dealing with this law. We're going to come over here to 30 and 6. Again, we'll read verse 6 again in Exodus 30 and work our way down. So again, when you're coming within the veil, you got to bring blood. So you can't come within the veil without blood. So when you look into that greatness and you've been separated by being paired with the blood, now you can enter. When you look at the veil and you enter the work of the highest causes you to enter into the covenant. Well, a covenant is of none effect without the shedding of blood. After we read Exodus 30, we'll look at Hebrews 9 and confirm that. And thou shalt put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, before the mercy seat that is over the testimony, where I will meet with thee. And Aaron shall burn thereon sweet incense every morning. When he dress the lamps, he shall burn incense upon it. And when Aaron light the lamps at even, he shall burn incense upon it, a perpetual incense before Yahuwah throughout your generations. You shall offer no strange incense thereon, no burnt sacrifice, nor meat offering, neither shall you pour drink offering thereon. Aaron shall make an atonement upon the horns of it once in a year with the blood of the sin offering of atonements. Once in the year shall he make atonement upon it throughout your generations. It is most Kadesh unto Yahuwah. One time a year can he enter into this place. One time. If he go in there when he feel like it, he gonna die. And then we can't even go in there. But when he go, he got to bring blood. He got to bring blood. Hebrews chapter 9. Hebrews chapter 9. So then what we're looking at is that the veil has to be removed. Because we've seen that the veil rent when Yahushua gave up the Ruach. When he died, it rent. Hebrews 9 and 20. Make that Hebrews 9 and 19. 18, actually. Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the law, he took the blood of the calves and of goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop, and sprinkled both the book and all the people. saying, "This is the blood of the testament which Alahym have adjoined unto you." Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. And almost all things are by Torah purged with blood, and without shedding of blood is no remission. Remember, and we already read that in Luke 24, that this man was killed and resurrected from the dead for the remission of sins. So we know that Aaron goes within the veil to sprinkle blood upon the mercy seat and to make atonement and all of these things on the Day of Atonement. Now, Romans 3 and 22. Three and 21, actually. But now the righteousness of Alahym without Torah is manifested, being witnessed by the Torah and the prophets. Even the righteousness of Alahym, which is by faith of Yahushua HaMashiach, unto all and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference. For all have sinned and come short of the esteem of Alahym, being justified freely by his con through the redemption that is in Yahushua HaMashiach, who Alahym has set forth to be a propitiation through faith in his blood, to declare his righteousness for the remission of sins that are past, through the forbearance of Alahym. So now you have the faith in his blood, which comes into you looking into his greatness, because open my eyes to behold wondrous things out of your Torah. Now, the veil has been removed. It's been rent. Why is that important with the veil being removed? Let's take a look then. Songs of Solomon, chapter 5. Songs of Solomon 5 and 3. After Songs of Solomon 5 and 3, Galatians chapter 2. And it says, I have put off my coat, and how shall I put it on? I have washed my feet, how shall I defile them? Now, Solomon's made a statement. He's taken off his coat, his outer garment. How could he put it back on? Let's see what he means. He's washed his feet. How would he defile them? Well, let's see. Galatians 2 and 16. Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the Torah, but by faith of Yahushua HaMashiach, that we might be justified by the faith of Mashiach, and not by the works of the Torah. For with the works of the Torah shall no flesh be justified. But if while we seek to be justified by Hamashiach, we ourselves are also found sinners, is therefore Hamashiach the minister of sin? Alahym forbid. For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself a transgressor. For I through Torah am dead to Torah, that I might live under Alahym. I am crucified with Hamashiach. Nevertheless, I live, yet not I, but Hamashiach live in me, and the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of Alahym, who loved me and gave himself for me. So this man has given himself for you. Now, we already read, he said, a Ruach don't have flesh and bone as you see me have, because we referenced to how he said that he was ready to burst, that, you know what I'm saying, become a new bottle, and that he was renewed or refreshed when he came a new bottle or a new vessel, because his belly was his wine, which had no vent, bursting, and he became new. So when we look at this here, right, and we look at that, you have put off the body of sin and put on Yahushua HaMashiach. You have no business putting that coat back on, that coat of the flesh. You are born again. So why would you be putting that back on? He stated about you've washed your feet. How could you defile them? But let's see what he means in Hebrews chapter 6. Yes, Abigail, what do you find so humorous this day? Hebrews 6 and 1. Come here, Abigail. Little crazy little baby. Hebrews 6 and 1. Therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Hamashiach, let us go unto perfection, not laying again the foundation of repentance from dead works and faith towards Alahym, of the doctrine of immersions and of the laying on of hands and of the resurrection of the dead and of eternal judgment. And this will we do, if Alahym permit. For it is impossible for those who are once enlightened and have tasted of the gift of Shamahim, and were made partakers of the Ruach HaKadosh, and have tasted the good word of Alahym, and the powers of the world to come, if they shall fall away, to renew them again unto repentance, seeing they crucified to themselves the son of Alahym afresh, and put him to an open shame. So you've washed your feet through immersion. How you going to turn around and defile them by putting on to by falling away and having to be made new all over again? That doesn't make any sense. Let's come back to Songs of Solomon chapter 5. That's something that we would need to consider, something that we would need to weigh. When we look at verse 4 of Songs of Solomon chapter 5, my beloved put his hand by the hole of the door, and my bowels were moved for him. Of course, you know this is Thomas sticking his hand in Hamashiach's side after his resurrection, when he told him, stick your hand in my hands and my feet and in my side, and be faithless. And be faithful, and not faithless, but believing. I rose up to open to my beloved, and my hands dropped with myrrh, and my fingers with sweet-smelling myrrh upon the handles of the lock. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had withdrawn himself and was gone. My soul failed when he spake. I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. Of course, you know, it's when Yahushua resurrected from the dead, showed himself to his apostles, dropped some word on them, disappeared, and they, you know, they was, you know, we kind of read that a little bit in Luke 24. They was kind of all over the place a little bit. But verse 7 is what we're here for. The watchmen that went about the city found me. They smote me. They wounded me. The keepers of the wall took away my veil from me. So when we look at this here, we know the watchmen are the scribes and the Pharisees. We know the city that they found him in is Jerusalem. We know that they found him because of Judas Iscariot, because he told them where he was, and they led him to him. We know that they smote him and they wounded him upon the stake, and then they took away his veil. We already read, of course, keepers is the guard of the walls. You should remember, because of watchmen, tying into that, the book of Ezekiel, that the watchmen watched the walls of the gates of the city and blew the trumpet to warn the people of danger, the scribes and the Pharisees at that particular time. And of course, and I see people have this conversation, and I know brews do it. They use scribes and Pharisees as an adjective to denote wickedness. We know every scribe and Pharisee wasn't wicked, because Nicodemus was a Pharisee, and yet he followed Yahusha. And there were a lot of Pharisees who believed, but a lot of them were scared to confess Yahusha openly for fear of being put out of the synagogue, because as it stated, they esteemed the esteem of men more than the esteem of Alahym. So, but we're just using it in a generalized term as forth as what went down, because we know for the most part it was the scribes and Pharisees and their conspiracy with Judas Iscariot to kill Yahusha. So, I mean, and it is what it is. So they conspired with him to kill him. So when we already read in Matthew 27 how when this occurred, this took away the veil, or removed the veil. Now remember, we're looking at the work of the highest allows you to enter into the covenant with the veil itself, the pokereth. But then we're looking at the mishpachah, and we understand that we've already established how you looked into greatness. Looking into the greatness separated you. We established that in John 17 in Hebrews chapter 2. Now, because you're paired with the blood, you are able to enter. We've been establishing that you could not enter into the most kadesh place or into the veil. And now we're going to see by the blood of Hamashiach, which has been shed, because by faith in his blood, he becomes a propitiation, or the atonement, as we read in Leviticus 16, your atonement for your sins, that now you have the access and the ability to enter into the veil. The reason why this is important, because there was only one family that could enter into the veil, and that was those who are the seed of Aaron, or the high priest. We know the Aaron name means light bearer, so those who possess the light are the only ones who could enter into the veil. So nevertheless, Hebrews chapter 10. Because we got to get ready to get y'all out of here for the night. And y'all willing Shabbat, we pick the ball up and keep on running. And then begin to introduce father, mother, son, daughter, cousin, uncle, and aunt into the scenario. And then lastly, one more thing. Hebrews chapter 10, right? And verse 10. He say, by the which we are all sanctified through the offering of the body of Yahushua HaMashiach once and for all. Every priest stand daily ministering, offering oftentimes the same sacrifice which could never take away sins. But this man, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down at the right hand of Alahym, from henceforth expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. For by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified. There goes your Kai. Wherefore the Ruach HaKadosh also was witness to us. For after that he had said, this is the covenant that I will make with them after those days. There goes your kaf for with your tile for the veil word, for veil for Pokereth. Saith Yahuwah, I will put my Torah in their hearts and their minds, and I will write them. We also have established the kaf when it made mention of him offering his sacrifice in the Pokereth, and also the Rosh because he is the first or the highest of things of that nature. Now, we've established the Ka and mishpachah, and also looking at that, we've established the Hay because you're looking into greatness. But then when he tells you how he's going to put the Torah into your heart and into your minds, now you have the Shan because now you've been paired. And you've already established because it said that him bringing in that offering or that blood is the meme in mishpachah. So there it is. Now you're paired with the blood. And look at what he says in verse 17. And their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. Now where remission of these is, there's no more offering for sin. Which means there's no need for you to be taking off your coat, to be putting it back on and washing your feet, for you to be defiling them. Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the Kadesh by the blood of Yahushua, by a new and living way, which he have consecrated for us through the veil, that is to say, his flesh. And having a high priest over the house of Alahym, let us draw near with a true heart and full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. And let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that promised. So notice, now you can come into the, you couldn't come into the veil before. But now you can come in. Come over to Hebrews chapter 4. You couldn't come into the veil before. But now it said you got boldness into the Kadesh by the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. You can boldly enter into a place of which you couldn't dare enter into before. Hebrews chapter 4. And considering 4 and about 13. No, 4 and 14. And then considering that this entrance way into this here, and then remember, in the Kadesh of the Kadesh, what is in that place but the Ark of the Covenant, and what's on top of the Ark of the Covenant but the mercy seat or the throne of favor? Because now you're able to do this. Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed in the Shamahim, Yahushua, the son of Alahym, let us hold fast our profession. For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. You could not boldly come unto that throne. You couldn't do that. But now, because that the veil is rent, now all have access, that you can come unto Alahym by Yahushua HaMashiach, by a new and living way. You've been converted now, Shu, paired to the sacrifice of the Son. And because you've been paired to the sacrifice of the Son by being born again and converted, now you are mishpachah, you are part of the family. And because you have looked into the greatness, it has separated you. Because he that sanctified and he that sanctified all are one. And I sanctified myself by the truth, that they might sanctify themselves by the truth. And you are sanctified by the faith which is in the name of Yahushua, because you have faith in the blood, and now has paired you to this blood to cause you to enter into the most Kadesh place. And it takes you in because you've come inside the veil. It is because the only way you came inside the veil was because of the work of the highest caused you to enter into this covenant. Because now remember, we just read that in Hebrews 10. But the last thing that we're going to look at is Exodus chapter 34. I know it was a lot in a little bit of time. I hope everybody understood. And if not, just make sure you ask your questions. Exodus chapter 34 and verse 30. 29, actually. And it came to pass when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tables of the testimony in Moses' hand, when he came down from the mount, that Moses wist not that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him. And Aaron and all the children of Yasharal saw Moses, and behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come nigh him. And Moses called unto them, and Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned unto him, and Moses talked with him. And afterwards all the children of Yasharal came nigh, and he gave them in commandment all that Yahuwah had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. Till Moses had done speaking with them, he put a veil on his face. Now, this is a different word for veil. And it's the word for veil that was in Songs of Solomon, and I didn't grab it, and it's my fault. And it's Radid, and it's Rosh Dalet, Yod Dalet, and it's something that's spread, something that covers. So you know you have the door to hide. Ask your mama, can I see her phone one more time? Lizzie, Lizzie, ask your mama, can I see her phone one more time? Because I just don't want to, because I'm like I said, I'm thinking about highest and most important in thoughts, but I don't want to use right hand for yard. I just don't want to use that. But I sit back. That looking at is that worshiping of the highest cause you to be able to come into the door. So, and it was something else that we was dealing with that there too, man. But I'll take that up because I got to get ready to let y'all slide out of here. And I deal with this other stuff coming in my head, and I don't want to try to jam that in right now. And Moses came unto Aaron, unto them, and Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation, and returned unto him, and Moses talked with them. And afterwards all the children of Yasharal came nigh, and he gave them in commandment all that Yahuwah had spoken with them at Mount Sinai. And till Moses had done speaking with them, he put the veil on his face. But when Moses went in before Yahuwah to speak with them, he took the veil off until he came out. And he came out and spake unto the children of Yasharal that which he was commanded. And the children of Yasharal saw the face of Moses, that the skin of Moses' face shone, and Moses put the veil upon his face until he went in to speak with them. Now, of course, you should know in Matthew 17, when Yahushua went up on the mount, and Moses and Elijah was there when he transfixed with Peter, John, and James, that he had no veil on his face when his face shone. Now we're going to bring in the last key point that I mentioned for y'all to remember, is that one would say that they would have righteousness, that in Yahuwah they would have righteousness and strength. We know that faith is righteousness and strength coming from your faith, because his grace is made perfect in weakness, and you would esteem in his infirmities, because this is where your strength comes from. For trust ye in Yahuwah, for trust in Yahuwah is everlasting strength. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 12. That's 1 Corinthians. Seeing then that we have such hope, we use great plainness of speech, not as Moses, which put a veil over his face, that the children of Yasharal could not steadfastly look to the end of that which is abolished. But their minds were blinded, for unto this day remain the same veil untaken away in the reading of the Old Testament, which veil is done away in a Mashiach. And that's where we sit back and you see the right hand, or the worship of the head causing an end into the door, because their eyes, their hearts are blinded. They're covered because of the veil. Remember, the veil is always put on the Ark of the Covenant. When Yahushua died, the veil was rent. Now the covenant is no longer covered. That's why we were looking into the greatness, why we referenced Luke 24 and 25 to 27 and 44 through 47, because the covenant is now revealed. Now the greatness of Alahym is revealed for you to be paired to this blood, so you can be separated to enter into the most Kadesh place for the deliverance of your soul, because now you can come in with boldness to a new and living way. A way that you didn't have a way into that place before. You had to stand without. If you came within, you died. Now he said you have boldness to come to the throne of grace to find help in the time of need. Now you will not die if you come near unto it. He said, but even unto this day when Moses is read, the veil is upon their heart. Nevertheless, when it shall turn to the master, the veil shall be taken away. Now the master is that Ruach, and where the Ruach of Yahushua is, there is freedom. But we all, with an open face, beholding as in the glass of the esteem of the master, are changed into the same image. Changed into the same image, from esteem to esteem, even as by the Ruach of Yahuwah. Now, because once this veil is removed, You can be changed and conformed to the same image. And if you're conformed to the same image, that takes us to who is my mother, who is my brother, who is my sister. Because if you're conformed to this image, then you are a part of the family to the Shabbat.